Taylor's songs is called Florida. And so I obviously assigned that to the University of Florida because in the song, she goes, Florida is a hell of a drug. And I'm like, yeah, the Gators, they make me want to do drugs. I'm a Gator fan, so I can clearly say that.
Another week, another great conversation on Cousins Conversations. I have Cierra Clark here, another great person in the sports industry who's doing great things in the digital space, especially with SEC Unfiltered, starting a new podcast there called SECT. Cierra, just give us a little of an idea of what goes into that podcast for you.
Yeah, so it's mostly on YouTube as well, so you guys can check that out too. But SEC Unfiltered covers all SEC sports. It's football time right now, so they're really going hard on that. The crew goes to different SEC locations throughout the year, but what I focus on specifically is my show, the SECT, because I felt like there is always kind of a gap for women understanding sports, for female sports fans, because there's women who have lives, you're in school, work, or raising a family and whatnot, but you still want to know what's going on in college football, especially in the SEC. So that's kind of where I come in. And I like to make it a little bit more relatable and digestible, not talking about all the X's and O's, but just talk about like, hey, this team's defense played like crap. This is why. And so just kind of breaking it down, because when I got into football, I actually wasn't really a sports fan growing up outside of the NBA, because I grew up in Orlando, so I grew up a Magic fan. And it was very casual. I was like 12, so I was just like, go team. And then my parents went to Florida State, so I was not a Gator fan growing up. But when I went to Florida, that's when I really got interested in college football and understanding that and whatnot. So I always felt kind of behind. I was like, okay, I don't want to sound stupid and ask these questions and whatnot. So that's kind of where my show comes in, and also on TikTok, trying to break things down in a quick, digestible way for people who aren't obsessed with college football or just don't know where to get the right information.
So you're reaching a certain audience. So how do you approach what you're going to do each time?
Like coming up with ideas?
Yes.
Yes. So I try to make them funny because, sports is supposed to be fun. And, it can get a little old hearing all the X's and O's, especially if that's not what you understand and if you didn't play football growing up. So honestly, I did several series. Like I did a Taylor Swift series. It was like SEC teams as Taylor Swift songs. I think like Florida, for example, one of Taylor's songs is called Florida. And so I obviously assigned that to the University of Florida because in the song she goes, Florida is a hell of a drug. And I'm like, yeah, the Gators, they make me want to do drugs. I'm a Gator fan, so I can clearly say that. But so things like that. And also another series I did, it's like crazy ex-girlfriends as football teams, or I've done like red flags. Like if your man is a fan of these teams, like he's a red flag. And like, it's kind of funny because how I get those ideas, honestly, a lot of them are from my own personal experiences dating men from certain SEC fan bases. And so that's why, like, if someone's like, I had one person one time comment and they were like, oh, well, did you steal this idea from another bigger account? And I was like, actually, no, unfortunately, I didn't. So that's kind of where I come in with it. Just sometimes they're random. They come up in my head if I'm like on a run or whatever. And I keep a running notes app on my phone to get ideas. And when it's time, I try to film like in batch. So like on Sundays, I try to film like a bunch of videos and then just like put them out throughout the weeks, just so I'm not like stressing myself out about putting something out every day. But it's definitely a learning process and learning how the algorithm works and what does well on social and what doesn't.
Was there a moment like where you did a video and then it just hit you that these are going to hit or people are going to like these?
I think it was one of the crazy girlfriends videos I did, or the red flags ones, that once it got like around 30,000 views, I was like, oh, okay. Like people actually thought this was funny. Or like, and then when people are like, oh, this is actually funny. I'm like, when I get like men complimenting, I'm like, okay. Like my sister's boyfriend, for example, he played college football at San Diego State where she went. And he saw my videos and he was like doing a deep dive, like looking at all of them. He's like, Cierra, these are actually really funny. And I'm like, oh my God, a former college football player thinks my stuff is funny. So I guess it's kind of funny. So it just really just depends.
Hopefully he helped you plug those though. I don't know. Did he?
Yeah.
Well, looking back at some of the videos you've done, what's one that stands out, or a favorite one that you've done?
Ooh, I really like the Taylor Swift one, comparing songs to SEC teams, just because Taylor has so many songs, so there's got to be something that matches up somewhere. And also a lot of, like, I was surprised in the amount of like followers I got, because I don't know, it's like, oh, getting followers, okay, but like that's a lot of the goal, but also to reach people, you know. And so when I for example, I did a video of like AI images, just like SEC coaches as like jobs that they would do and whatnot. And that one blew up. But then and it got more views than the Taylor Swift video. But the Taylor Swift video, I got more engagement, more followers, because people were like, oh my God, like this is my niche. Oh my gosh. Because when I made the video, I was like, I don't know if this is too niche. Like, I don't know. And sometimes I do have those ideas. I'm like, is this too niche? Like, I don't know. Like I had one, it was like SEC teams as wedding couples, and that one got over like 300,000 views or something, not to brag on myself, but it was like, this is like too niche. Like, I don't know, but women like to plan for weddings, or maybe they're going through divorce. I don't know. And so they like to like, for example, I did that one with Arkansas, and I was like, yeah, this marriage is cursed. And the Hog fans were like, this is harsh, but probably true. So
do you think that, like, you mentioned that you may be like psychologist? Yeah, psychic. That's the word. That not psychotic, psychic. I didn't want to say it wrong. I didn't want to judge you or anything.
No, you're good.
Because you did, like, I saw your most recent video. One of them was James Franklin, if he landed in the SEC, and then he gets fired from Penn State.
Yes, and I was like, gosh, I can fire other people's coaches, but not my own. No, but yeah, and it was something I just threw out there, because a lot of my following is Arkansas, because I made my new Twitter account when I was covering the Hogs, because my old Twitter account, I made it in high school. It was really cringe. Like, you could see me tweeting at Harry Styles. Didn't want people to like pull that up. Well, now they know, but like the account's gone, so you can't do anything. But I was very much tweeting at One Direction. But anyways, so when I made my Twitter account that I have now, Cierra Clark TV, I has mostly Arkansas followers. So that's why I was like, hey, Arkansas fans, how do you feel about this? And a lot of them were like hesitant, which I was very kind of surprised to see, because I mean, James Franklin getting fired, I threw it out there, like, just as, you know, you say stuff online to get interaction a lot of the time. And I threw that out there. I was like, hey, like, if he gets fired, and I was like, this is crazy. Because last week I was like, oh, he lost to UCLA. And I was like, is it time to have the James Franklin conversation? Which means like the seat is slightly warming up. I didn't think that they would want to burn the house down this quickly. And so, yeah, but when it comes to the SEC, I mean, he's coached in the league before. He was at Vanderbilt and took them to some 9-win seasons. Very impressive to do at Vanderbilt. So I was just throwing out some names out there. Florida, which, as a Gator alum, I know how high the expectations are there. Like, I could see if James Franklin was hired as the Florida football coach, I could see him maybe taking the Gators to the SEC championship, or going to the college football playoff and losing in the first round, maybe even the semifinals like he did last year. But winning a national title is what Gator fans want. I know it sounds crazy right now, just how the team is playing, and I get comments like that. People are like, you're delusional for thinking they could take Dan Lanning or Lane Kiffin or anything like that. But I'm like, oh, you must be a 12-year-old sports fan because you were not around in 2007. So it's like, I think that James Franklin, because he struggled to win the big games, that's what concerns me at Florida. I actually have been saying I think he would be a good fit at Arkansas. And it's not because I live here or, you know, root for the team when they're not playing Florida. But his big thing was he could not beat the big teams. He couldn't beat Ohio State. He could not beat Oregon when they were in their conference, even lost to UCLA. But he could win the teams. He could win the games that he was supposed to win. And at Arkansas, that is what you kind of need to do. Like, losing to Alabama isn't the end of the world. Like, you're not going to get fired if you lose to Alabama. But if you lose to Ole Miss every year or lose to LSU every year, it's like, okay, now. So that's why I think, you know, you could go to a place like Arkansas. Now that the SEC is going to a 9-game schedule, the playing field is a lot more leveled. And I think that, hey, sure, he gets to 8 wins, maybe 9 wins on a good year. And who knows, maybe a great year, they make it to the college football playoff. Arkansas fans are happy if they have an 8-win season every year in an occasional 9-10 win season. So that's why I'm like, okay, the standards aren't as high. Like you might beat Texas on a year or LSU, but it's not like, oh my God, you need to beat Alabama every year and you need to win the SEC championship. That's just not what's expected at Arkansas. And that's why I think that he could maybe be a good fit there.
I was going to say, like, what do you think Arkansas fans would want? Because, like, he sounds like the perfect candidate. I mean, he's Penn State to the college football playoff semifinal, and that's very far. I mean, and that's in the Big Ten, who had the national champion last year.
Yeah, and a lot of them are looking at his record against those big teams. Like, okay, he only beat Ohio State once during his career at Penn State, and it's like, okay, but like you guys haven't, Arkansas, respectfully, you guys have not beaten Alabama since 2006. Like, I think that was either Nick Saban's first year or before he got there. So it's like, you guys don't have much to choose from, to be quite honest. But a lot of them, from what I've talked to, want Bobby Petrino, the current interim coach, who, and if you guys don't know his lore, it's a whole thing. He was formerly the coach, but was let go because motorcycle accident. He had an affair, whole thing. And they're like, we want to keep Bobby. Some of them want to keep Bobby Petrino, who's the interim right now. And I'm hesitant on that simply because he's been around several teams, hasn't found that landing spot. I feel like if he would have by now, he would have by now. And just his way when he was at Louisville wasn't that great. And also, if I'm a young athlete looking to go to a school, I want someone who's a bit on the younger side because I'm like, okay, well, is this guy going to retire? You know? And so that's why I'm hesitant with Bobby Petrino right now. And also, Arkansas hasn't taken care of the football very well. They've had fumbles, like game determining fumbles this season. And so that's what concerns me. I'm like, okay, he was the offensive coordinator. You can't blame the defensive staff who was fired for that. And then, so that's why I'm like, okay, I don't know why you guys want Bobby. I think you're thinking of those early glory days with him, but the game is so different now. And then a lot of them also are thinking of Brett Lashley at SMU. He's from Arkansas. I went to the college football playoff last year at SMU, but I'm like, I need a bigger sample size of just making it to the playoff once. And Alex Golish from USF, he beat Florida. So everyone's like, oh, he's an up and coming coach. But from my experience, just based off being a Gator fan and whatnot, I am not a fan of like an up and coming coach because that's why Florida, I think, is in the situation they're in with Billy Napier. They saw he was an up and comer at Louisiana Lafayette, and then he gets to Florida and it's not working great. So you have to look at who you are trying to bring to your program and what the history has been there, in my opinion, for a coaching search.
What have you learned the most about covering the SEC from when you were in college to now in Arkansas, which is two different schools? What have you mostly taken away from that experience?
I said it's definitely a grind, and you really have to embrace the environment you're in. When I was in local news, we didn't just cover, as you know, the Gators or the Razorbacks. Like there was a lot of high school stuff too. So just kind of stay grounded and get to know those communities because you never know like what those people could tell you or, and it's also important to have relationships with your community as someone who's on air, but covering the SEC, I've learned that the fans are very passionate and you can maybe say your opinion. They might not like it. They might. I've had my own fan base turn on me. Like Arkansas fans gotten mad at me. Like, what was it? I was like complaining about how I think field storming is stupid and I will still die on the hill that I think field storming is. I'm a Gator fan. We don't storm the field.
And it does cost $50,000 now for the school.
And I post like literally I just retweeted today the Gator, like this guy tried to storm the field after Florida beat Texas and the cops had him like pinned to the ground. And like one guy who's a longtime Florida media guy was like, they don't storm the field of Florida. They don't play around with it. And so that's where my take is with that. But regardless, the SEC is a very fun, passionate fan base just because a lot of these states don't have professional teams like Arkansas or Alabama or good professional teams, honestly. Obviously, there's Texas who has tons of pro teams, but the bread and butter a lot for these southern states is the college football team because not everyone also in the South gets the opportunity to go to these big schools or go to these big games, big NFL games and whatnot. So it means more. Like, I know it sounds corny because it's literally their catchphrase, but it just means more because, when you're an Arkansas fan, you see Arkansas beating Alabama or something. It's like, oh, finally people are looking at Arkansas, because Arkansas fans, from my experience, the diehards, really kind of take an identity on the Razorbacks because it's the only major team in the state, really. Like, you don't have to go to these schools to be a fan. Like, there are people who are Arkansas State fans that are Hog fans, or even people that go to Troy that are Bama fans. Like, people, you don't have to be a alum of that school to be a fan of that team. And I just think that's so awesome.
It's the same thing here in Iowa. Everyone's a Hawkeyes fan or a Cyclones fan. You die on that hill. And if you're not one of those fans, then you're rooting for Illinois or somebody else in the Big Ten who's close by. So it's very similar in that way. And I actually went to Wisconsin this last week, and for the Iowa-Wisconsin game, that was the first time I was in Madison, and that's a cool stadium too. They have like the jump around with the lights turn off and everyone's jumping around the student section. But Wisconsin is terrible, so So literally, that's at the end of the third quarter. All the fans literally did that and then left. In the fourth quarter, the stadium's empty. So,
that's like Florida with the won't back down tradition, which I think it's a great tradition now. But it's like, oh, we clearly are backing down now with every game we're in.
That's funny. Oh, and so now that you've been in those environments in the SEC, I've seen a couple of myself too. What's a favorite one that stands out to you besides like Arkansas and Florida?
See, I haven't been to every SEC stadium. There's a lot that are on my bucket list. So I would say LSU.
Okay. Oh, I heard that one's like scary. People like it's serious.
There's some witchy stuff that goes on down in Baton Rouge for sure. And, it's just something you have to experience. What I've been told, when the game starts, they play Call in Baton Rouge, which is great. And then they'll play Boozy. And then, yes, and because Boozy's from Louisiana, he's from Baton Rouge, I believe. And then they'll also play the next song, which is like, it's great. The band gets really into it. The students, fans all get into it. And also the tailgating scene. Like, I know that LSU fans love to party. Like, I see them cooking out jambalaya and giant pots down there. Like, it is just a different kind of culture down there. And it's something that you have to embrace, especially at night. A few years ago, there was a game at LSU that was so loud that it was registered as an earthquake. Like, they do not play around down Baton Rouge. Like, if you can win on the road and at LSU, then you've got a pretty good team, because playing in there, the crowd is going to cheer loud.
What's another bucket list stadium for you? For me, it's like, I'm thinking like Big Ten, like Michigan, Ohio State, like those, but you said you had more. So what are yours?
Yes. I'd love to go to Alabama. Bryant-Denny is just like, you can't beat it. Even though like Saban's not there anymore. There's like the epitome of college football as a whole, that one. And also Ole Miss is one, because I've heard the Grove is pretty fun. I would like to go this year to some Ole Miss games, because I'm not actually that far from there. But like, just the Grove, the tailgate scene is pretty fun. And just the way that Lane Kiffin has that team like hyped up right now, it just seems like a very fun program to be around. And let's see. Also Auburn, Jordan Hare. That I've heard that place looks pretty fun, because it's not like the biggest stadium, so it can feel pretty loud because it's like kind of cozy in a way. So that's another one I'd like to go to. I guess like all of them. Oh, and then one more, Tennessee Neyland Stadium. They checker out Neyland, which is pretty cool. And like some sections were orange and white, which is incredible how they coordinate that with that many people. And also they've added some new traditions. Like, even though I hate the Rocky Top song because I am a Gator fan, hearing it play at Tennessee, I feel like would be really cool. And then they've added a new tradition where they have this Morgan Wallen song called The Way I Talk. Morgan Wallen is from that East Tennessee area. And in his song, he talks about like his accent and like how it comes out when I'm cheering on the Volunteers. And they play that part in the song at Neyland Stadium, and the crowd gets really crazy. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, whenever an artist uses a region of the SEC in his songs, I'm like, as the marketing department, you got to use that. So I think that would be pretty cool too.
He has plenty of songs about Tennessee also, and he goes to a lot of the games. I've seen him there, so good for him. And also I think he was there when they upset Alabama a couple of years ago.
I think he was, yeah.
And he had a good time there, I saw.
Yes, he has a whole song called Tennessee Fan. It's
Yes.
about a girl that it goes, the joke's on Alabama because they lost big this time. I got the #1 pick, blonde hair, red lips, brought over to the other side. They're playing this week in Tennessee, Alabama, so perfect timing. But the rumors say that that's about Megan Maroney, because I don't know if you know who she is.
Oh, yeah. I know who Megan Maroney is, of course.
Oh yeah, I would hope so. She's one of my favorite artists, my girl crush. And she
And
has,
she's mine too.
yes. And so like she went to Georgia, and so she has a song called Tennessee Orange.
Mhm.
And so it's talking about, I met somebody, he's got blue eyes, basically like a guy. It's like in Georgia they call this a sin, because why are you a Georgia girl and you're wearing Tennessee colors? Oh, it's for this guy. And the rumors are saying that's about Morgan Wallen. So very interesting there. She has admitted that she has dated him. So I'm like, okay, that song was definitely about him. But I just love when artists kind of like do that. And also she has a song called Georgia Girl. So she does make up for it there.
It seems like Morgan Wallen dates a lot of people. So
Just a little.
yeah. Talking about, we both had that background in local news when we both came out of college. For you now, kind of, doing more digital things, how did you think about doing more digital things? What was your thought process and building it up to what it is now for you?
To be completely honest, I felt like I was kind of forced. I'm like by myself, honestly, because I left my local news job at my previous station. Didn't want to do another 3 years because they go by 3-year contracts. And then, but I was like, okay, well, like I'm working in marketing right now, and I still want to like do sports stuff, how in a way that I can. So I'm like, let me just like go down TikTok. And so I've been like an avid TikTok user since like 2020 when we all downloaded it. But I didn't actually consistently start like thinking out my posts until about like in May. And I realized like it is hard to grow on TikTok. And I'm like, okay, well, what ideas, like what do people like? And so sometimes I think of stuff and it'll get no views. And then sometimes I think of stuff and it'll do well. So it's really just kind of just adapting to the space we're in, because it's how a lot of people get their information. And I think like TikTok is a fun way to connect with people as well.
Definitely. And it is hard to get people on TikTok. I think I've had like 100 videos on there, still at like 300, but people I feel like respond more on YouTube and like
Yeah.
Instagram and all that. So I feel like, being on there is probably more helpful.
Yeah, and I'm trying to like convert my stuff to like YouTube, because like YouTube Shorts is a thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like a great way to grow. Like I didn't realize, like also like YouTube I think is the better app to monetize your work. So that's another plus.
We're both trying to get on our way to making money from YouTube, right? That's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah, I try to post my stuff on YouTube from TikTok. Sometimes it takes a while, but I'm like, oh, I only have 20 subscribers. Like, yeah, but I'm like, you never know, it could blow up. Like I met someone who had like over 200,000 subscribers, and it was just off of YouTube Shorts. They weren't even on camera. It was just kind of like he would edit like UFC type videos and post them on YouTube, like very short clips, and he has like over 200,000 subscribers. I was like, you don't even show your face. So it's like, you never know.
That crazy stuff. And you came from Florida. There's a lot of like big time reporters from network level that went to Florida. What is it about the Florida journalism school that is just bringing out all these talents out here into the TV world?
To be quite honest, a lot of them are like Florida natives, and Florida is a pretty big state. And the school is pretty competitive to get into, but also the state, and then I don't know anyone's like financial situation, but the state of Florida, University of Florida tuition is very affordable. So that also appeals to a lot of people. And like, I mean, their tuition is the same. I don't know the exact number because it's probably gone up since I've left, but it's the same tuition for Florida State, UCF, UNF, Florida Gulf Coast. Like all of the public schools in Florida have the same tuition, and Gainesville is very affordable to live in. So it's like, okay, you have the grades, you want to be a journalism student, this school does have the better journalism program throughout the state. So it's very attractive to people. And also being the only SEC school in the state, if you want to cover football, then that also helps too. Because I know the UF journalism program is very good on immersion programs. Like there's an ESPN radio affiliate on campus. Now, like I'm very impressed with the students now and what they've been allowed to do, host their own radio shows, like live on the air, or they're sending them to a lot more events than what I did when I was in school. So it seems like it's growing, and it seems like they're adapting to the digital media space, because when I was in school, my major was telecommunications news. So you had to take a test to get into the news track. So I got into that, but there was also like, you could do production, journalism, all those kinds of things. And now they don't even have the telecommunications major anymore. Like you could obviously go to UF to be a broadcast journalism student, but if I was in school now, my major probably would be UF journalism, like journalism major, but the sport media track, because that's something new that they've added. And so I think that's great, because you still have to take reporting. I'm not sure if they're making them go out on shifts like we did. Like it was like a regular news reporter. You had to pitch a story, I don't know, go to a commission meeting and do a package or a BOSOT on it at UF, regardless if you want to do sports news, whatever, you had to do that. So I'm not sure if they're making them do that still. I highly recommend like students go that way, because hey, it gets hard to get a job right out of school. And if you can take a news job, if they're not looking for sports, like I've seen people change those roles into sports roles by getting a job in news, and then, okay, the sports person left, and then now you are foot already in the door. It's a great way to get there.
Exactly. With Kansas, they split it up, like it was like Stratcom and then TV news. So people that were like either wanted to go into like newspaper, radio, TV were on one side, and then like advertising, marketing. But it was like all classes together for 2 years, and then the last 2 years it was like more specific things. But it was more like in the classes you did more like news specific things. Like one of my professors, he like knew I wanted to do sport. He's like, I'm not gonna let you do sports. You have to figure out on your own how to do stuff. So I do like stories on concussions, or like find something from like local high school, something, just to like make it like news but still sports.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of props for that. So
yeah, Kansas also has a pretty good journalism school, I've heard. And it's pretty similar, like you said, at Florida, having the like we had a separate section. They were more of downstairs for PR and advertising as well. And the journalism program was in another building too. So we had those majors too, which is, I think it's good, because it gives kids like different options. And then marketing, that was like in the business school. But I think it gives kids options to try things around, because I actually started as a PR major, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do this. Da, 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 da. So like I went in the news, and then like kind of stayed there. So it's good. Like if I had advice for kids, I'm like, just try things out. You're in school, like just try things out, do different internships, see what you like, see what you don't like, and also doesn't have to set in stone.
Oh, 100%. And obviously Florida's the reigning national champions in basketball. So that makes it a big deal too. But is that weird? Because would you consider them more of like a football school or a basketball school? Because they won back to back in the day. So
yeah, I would have loved to be at the University of Florida in 2007, like winning football, basketball national championship. Like when I look up pictures from that era, it's just people partying the street all the time. But to answer your question, I like to consider Florida an everything school.
Okay.
Because Florida demands excellence really on every level, from academics to also all of their sports. Like every sport is contending for a national title, like track and field, swimming, tennis. There's been incredible athletes who are Olympians currently competing, and they got their start at Florida. What other sports? Gymnastics, also one that they demand excellence in. It's very hard now in the SEC, with Oklahoma being in the SEC, and they're always very dominant. Softball, baseball, all of those sports have won national titles within the past like 15, 20 years. And so that just shows like how much Florida demands excellence. And I know like it's like, yes, football is the moneymaker, but if football doesn't make it, then some other sport will make it to a national championship somehow at Florida. So I consider us an everything school. Like it's like basketball, football, baseball, softball, all, like it's really impressive, especially by the fans, because I covered Florida softball too. And I was in college for when they won back-to-back national titles. And the softball stadium gets packed, like to the point where they had to expand it because they had so many fans there. So it just shows that the growth amongst women's sports, especially at Florida, is growing every year, which is awesome.
That is awesome. And yeah, Oklahoma, I guess they come to the SEC, but some sports aren't good. But like softball, they win that thing every year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not get to experience a national championship for basketball when I was at school. My senior year, they were in the Final Four.
Oh yeah.
But that was the Sister Jean Final Four with
Oh yeah.
Well, Villanova had like the Nova Knicks. Now it's like Brunson, Bridges.
Yes.
So that was like a very short-lived experience in the Final
Yeah.
Four. But then they won in 2021. So I did get to experience it as a fan.
Oh,
but it's cool now though. Like as an alum of the university, like I don't know how you felt when you were a student there, but like you were covering the games. You're not trying to be like too biased, but you're still excited. But like now you can be a fan and just enjoy.
Yeah, when you're not covering the team, it's like, oh, I can like brag about my team.
Unless you're so I guess you don't really have any good thoughts about Billy Napier, or do you?
I don't know why we're allergic to firing him. James Franklin, like we said, got fired. Sam Pittman got fired. There's more that's going to get fired. I could see Hugh Freeze, them pulling the plug there. But it's like, I guess they're like, okay, like we need to give him more time. But how much more time do you need? Like, I just don't think he's the guy. The play calling is questionable. I would have liked them to run the football more. And also, I believe at Florida, you need to get a coach who's come from another Power 4 team. He came from Louisiana Lafayette, did good there. Awesome. That could be good for a program like South Carolina or Arkansas, somewhere that hasn't won an SEC championship in the recent years, or someone that hasn't won a national title in this millennium. Like, I just think that he's not the guy. And like people were calling me delusional when I was like Lane Kiffin. I said Lane Kiffin. Who else did I say? I said Dan Lanning, and I said Marcus Freeman as coaches for Florida. And people were like, this girl is doing drugs. And I'm like, well, this team makes me want to do drugs because I don't know what other options we have.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had like football to complain about. When I was at KU, I think we won like 4 games in 4 years.
Yeah, y'all are just focused on basketball.
We were losing the FCS teams out here, like bad FCS teams, like Southeast Missouri State. Now we've had 2 bowl seasons, and now everyone's thinking we're a football school now. So
exactly.
That's always fun. That's always fun. Another cool thing you do other than your sports thing and your marketing thing is pageants. I want to know more about that. I mean, I think when I think pageants, I mean, I don't watch a lot of them, but I think like Miss Congeniality. So how similar is it to that, or not at all?
Yeah, so I started pageants pretty recently, 2021. It's something I've always wanted to do. It wasn't like a toddlers and tiara or anything like that. But yeah, I got into it like when I was in Florida, 2021, and then Miss Florida USA. So that's like a big pageant. Like Florida, Texas, California, those are like your big pageants. And so then when I went to Arkansas, I was like, I live here, I'll do it here. Still pretty competitive. But it really helps a lot with speaking skills and learning how to apply makeup, learning how to wear heels correctly and walk in them correctly, even like with your posture, just learning how to do that. But how is it like Miss Congeniality? I haven't seen that movie in years, but from the system I do, it's the Miss USA organization. So that's the one that goes to Miss Universe. You have to win your state, then you go to Miss USA, and then you go to Miss Universe if you win Miss USA. Miss Congeniality, I think that movie was like more of a parody of the America system. So the Miss America system is different because that's a nonprofit organization and it's a scholarship. So like everyone competes, gets some type of scholarship money. And you also have to have a talent. Which I do not have other than talking about sports.
You can't do that as your talent?
Yeah, and also there's an age limit. So it's 28. Okay. So I'm above that now. With USA or Universe, they just recently changed the age limit. So there's no age limit. You can be married and also have children. So there's differences there. And also the USA system has a bit more of an international following just because it's a feeder to Miss Universe. But yeah, it's definitely an experience. It's not easy. You have to train, track your calories, all those types of things.
What was the attraction for you to it?
It's just something that I always wanted to do, honestly. And then the opportunity of going to Miss USA always seemed like something that was pretty cool to me. If I continue it, I'm not really sure, but Miss USA is about to start soon, so I'm just gonna watch and read all the girls competing.
Awesome. Well, being from Florida, what's a common misconception you get?
About pageants or about being
Just
from Florida?
being from Florida, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I'm in Arkansas, people are like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Work." But Florida is not like Florida's great. I would live there again, but it's logistically, I'm like, okay, jobs, but also it's very expensive there, and it's a lot more traffic than Arkansas. It's very different, and I had to get used to. I'm like, oh wait, I'm the one with the accent now because I'm in Arkansas.
Yeah, people always tell me about my Chicago accent, but I didn't even know until I left Chicago that he even had an accent.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
people, they're like, are you from Chicago? I was like, yeah. How do you know? They're like, the way you're talking.
Yeah, like people don't. Okay, so I notice people have an accent, but I'm not sure if they notice that I have one. They're just like, oh yeah, you just don't have a Southern accent, because I feel like I have a very generic American voice, and if you watch TV, then I have a very generic voice, rather than like someone who's Southern. It's funny because I've been here long enough. I'm like, oh, you're from this part of Arkansas because I can tell by your accent. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Do you know people that go to UCF?
Yes. Well, not a lot of people. The majority of people from my high school actually went there. But I don't know anyone personally there that's now.
Do they embrace the being a Big 12 school now or no?
It's really interesting because I think a lot of them were excited when they were getting into the Big 12 based off people I went to high school with that graduated from UCF. I think a lot of them were very excited to be in the Big 12, but knew that, okay, it's going to be a little bit more competitive now. And I think UCF is definitely seeing that. But it's also more of a draw, I feel like, for recruiting. But UCF is a hard place to coach at. I know, like I was saying, oh, Gus Malzahn, who was the former UCF coach, he stepped down. He's the coordinator at FSU now. And I was like, oh, Gus Malzahn, Arkansas, how do you feel about this? FSU looks really good. And they're like, no, because Gus Malzahn's also from Arkansas. And so that was like, oh, why are you guys taking him? I was like, no, because he's played us so many times, that kind of thing. But what I'm getting at is like, they were saying, oh, well, he couldn't win at UCF. But I had to explain, I'm like, winning at UCF is not easy, because when it comes to recruiting, I don't care if they're in the Big 12 now. The big three schools in the state of Florida are Florida, Florida State, and Miami. And they're both in the ACC and SEC. And they all go after those top recruits in the state of Florida. And so when you're UCF, you're like, hey guys, I'm here now. But it's like, pump the brakes. Like, you don't have the history that we do of the recruiting footprint in this state. So UCF, they're going to have some catching up to do for sure.
Orlando too. How many times have you gone to Disney World?
It's funny because when people ask that, I'm like, I never go. But it's like, okay, how many times did you go to theme parks as a kid for field trips? I think I've lost count. But now that I'm an adult and pay bills, I'm like, Disney's too expensive. But like, I did go to Disney quite often. I know for our fifth grade field trip, we went to Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios. And then 8th grade, we went to Epcot, so Disney World. And then like 5th grade, we also went to Downtown Disney. And then so I've been to Disney, Islands of Adventure, all of them, for whether it's daycare field trips or school field trips, or even like just my parents like, hey, we're going to Disney. So I think I've lost count.
I don't even know the last time I was there, but it had to be a long time
Yeah,
ago.
it was like 2018, I think, last time I went. Since it's like once you're an hour away from Disney, it's like, okay, I don't need to go this many times.
How much do people embrace the magic there?
The Magic haven't been that great as of lately. I think people are just kind of have like magic fatigue, honestly. They're just like, okay, we're ready to go back to the days where we make it to the playoff and doing good. So I've been kind of a casual fan, honestly. Haven't been following them as much, just kind of checking the score every now and then. But people get intense to the Magic. It's a nice arena. It really is. Like, downtown Orlando is a very underrated place. People think, oh, Florida, like I'm going to move to Tampa, I'm going to move to Miami. I'm like, fine, you can stay away from Orlando because it's already expensive enough.
It's better to get to the playoffs than being a Chicago fan.
That is true.
I'll tell you
that is true. Yeah.
And I don't know why it's so bad. We're like the third biggest city in the whole country.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets crazy.
It is. What's the end goal for you, or what's your current goal going from this digital thing, or do you have one?
Yeah, just kind of try to grow and engage with more people and just making people laugh while also informing them. I know, life can be hard. So if I can like get someone to laugh while also learn something about college sports or maybe encourage like a girl to get into sports, then that's kind of what my end goal is. But also just, to reach more people engagement wise for sure.
We are in the entertainment business, so people
Yeah.
you do want to also stand out though too. Like you were talking about the views, you
Yeah,
get those views. So
absolutely. Yeah.
where can people see all your work and all those wonderful
Yes.
videos that you're putting out there?
So on TikTok, you can follow me at Cierra Clark 55. The spelling is right there. So my name weird. And then on Twitter, I'm Cierra Clark TV. Instagram, it's a lot to remember. I think it's like just look up Cierra Clark and you should be able to find me. My Instagram name is Cierra R Clark _ I should probably make them all one thing, but there seems to be multiple Cierra Clarks. So yeah, Cierra R Clark _ for Instagram.
There we go. That's where we can see all of Cierra's great work. Cierra, I appreciate you coming on the show with me this week.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see everybody on the next episode. Have a great week. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment. Have a great week, everybody.